we're still finishing some things up, still moving some things over, but it's done enough to give a bit of a tour. There was the radio room. This is going to be the kitchen-y area, maybe dining room, I don't know. General living room area. Then stairs over the bathroom. There's some lofts, bedrooms upstairs. So this whole thing started about 5 or 6 years ago with this trail that I'm walking on right now. A friend of mine was doing some work out here with his excavator. It was on a neighboring property. And I said, well, hey, why don't you take a shortcut through this lot that I have? And it'll help build me a trail. It'll be faster for you to get the thing out, a little bit faster. So he built me this trail. And we've added on to it since then. There's a little hay field off to the side here that has come in more recent times, but while he had it out here, he said, hey, I've got some of this steel pipe that I make foundations with. And we had actually been planning on building a house on this property, and so he said, do you want me to put some foundation in place for you? We didn't have a building plan yet, but I thought, well, sure, let's go ahead and put some foundation in place. Except I didn't know what to put. I knew roughly where to put it. So I told him, okay, well, I think we'll go with, let's say, a 32 by 32 footprint. And so he brought over a bunch of pipe, and he pounded it down into place with his excavator, and he made the pipes that go across, and he had the pipe to do it in 3 parallel rows, 16 feet apart. But at the time I wasn't thinking that the configuration that the pipe was in was going to have such an effect on how I had to plan and build the house. But let's flip this around here. Talk about our dream, our off-grid dream home. And so there's these 3 rows of pipe, but that meant that I could basically have 3 load-bearing walls. And so that really influenced the design of the house. I decided that we'll have kind of like this central wall that supports, you know, that top of the roof there, and then a north wall that's taller, and then a south wall that's shorter, because I like this split peak roof thing that we've got going on here when they face south. And I like the way that you can use windows along the top to let in extra sunlight and also provide for ventilation. So the central wall for the downstairs is this post and beam wall, like this post, and there's 2 others just like it, are locally milled 6x6s, and the beams also are custom made 6x8s that I had done specifically for this. I designed things so that all the heavy stuff will go under the central wall, because beneath this, like that post and all the other posts in the row, they're all sitting on that central foundation pipe. That pipe runs right beneath the central wall. So we have the wood stove sitting on that central pipe, and in this little room behind this wall, the bathtub is going to sit there on that central pipe. It's not in there yet. And then over here by all the electric stuff, just outside this wall, are the house batteries, also sitting on the very outside edge of that pipe. One of the main things that gave me trouble was figuring out where to put the stairs. I had even had previous design plans that had a slide coming down right next to the staircase, and that would have been fun. But it probably would have been too steep. We would have just crashed into the wall or something. I guess it might still be something we could do if we got rid of some of those railings, but I think the way it is right now is pretty cool. It's a bit jumbled. We're still getting things figured out. So much of the difficulty in the design process was not just in worrying about how weight is distributed through the structure, but also how easy and evenly it will heat, which is why the wood stove is in kind of the center of this big open area. But also, we wanted to make sure we had room in the upstairs for us to basically each have a bedroom, and that we would have lots of room downstairs to do fun things like, oh, we could practice our martial arts, or I could ride my skateboard. Or I also designed things so that along this stretch, if we stood back in this corner, which is really dark right now, and we put up a target on that opposite corner, we could do some indoor archery during winter. How do you like the new house? Yeah? How do you like the new house? You two just want to come over for pets, huh? So I planned and planned and planned and finally figured out what I thought was a good workable design that met all of our needs. So from that point, we started saving money for building, buying the supplies, etc. Started gathering things that we knew we'd need if we found like good deals on like windows. We bought some solar panels, some exterior doors, things like that, things that are, kind of expensive, but if you find good deals, you jump on it. But we hit our first snag when lumber prices spiked during COVID. Like lumber just like doubled, tripled in price. I don't even remember because when I saw the prices, I'm like, nope, not buying it. So we responded by cutting down some trees that we thought were, possibly usable for post and beam stuff. We dragged them by snow machine to the build site. We caught a break in November of 2021 when lumber prices dropped. I jumped on it. I ordered pretty much all of the lumber that we would need and had it delivered to the top of the driveway, right next to the foundation. So here you're looking at a photo from late spring of 2022. All the lumber had been delivered. We had just started putting floor joists on the foundation, some 16-foot long 2x12s. And note there's this cabin in the background. Now, it wasn't the greatest little thing. It was built in the 90s. It came with the property. Sometimes we'd have guests stay there. I built a little skate ramp under the covered garage area so I had a place to play in the wintertime. And we'd been using this cabin to store all of those things that we'd been saving that I was talking about, like windows, solar panels. This is where we stored like the bags of insulation that we'd had delivered, vapor barrier, tar paper, all kinds of stuff. I'd planned the build around the sizes of windows that we had stored in this cabin. Like that was kind of part of the actual drawn out plans. But we started getting those floor joists in place. In fact, that's about where we were when this picture was taken. But then this happened. Our neighbor Glenn called us to tell us that the cabin was on fire. I hurried over. We live a couple miles down the road. The drive is usually about 10 minutes. I think I made it in less than that. When I got there, Glenn was already there trying to put it out with some water. But, we had no running water on the property, so it was just whatever he was hauling over from next door. I was already on the phone to emergency services. They emphasized that I needed to get any propane tanks away from the building, so I did. And I don't know how I did, because usually I need a wrench to unscrew these things because of the way that the regulator was. But I was able to just, I guess I had adrenalized fingers, right? So I was able to get it unscrewed, took the propane tank away. Then I went down the driveway to unlock the gate and to help direct the firefighters to where they needed to go, since we didn't have like a street number sign or anything. Our neighbor Brian showed up soon after. He's like a legit firefighter. Tried to help put it out, but at that point it was like too late to put out with the things that we had on hand. So he and Glenn focused on moving the box truck that had been parked next to the cabin so that the firefighters could come in. And when they did get there, I told them to hose down our piles of lumber that had been delivered. To me, it was more important that we didn't lose all of that lumber that I had just bought at a time when prices were perfect, because prices went back up again after that. So I was like, no, we can't afford to rebuy this lumber. So just, hose that down so we don't lose it. This picture shows what was left. We didn't just lose the building materials either. We had other stuff stored in there. I lost my drum set that was stored in there. We had a nice moose hide that Megan had brain tanned. that took like a ton of time and effort. So we lost all kinds of stuff, and it was hard to know how to keep building without kind of the things that were part of the plan that we already had. So I shifted gears, kind of tried to prioritize finding whatever cheap windows and doors we could find, and got started framing the walls. But before we could even do that, we had to do the actual cleanup. We had to get a big old dumpster on site, hire somebody to dismantle everything, haul it away. And then we turned the whole site into a big parking pad. There was a tower in the middle that we left there temporarily that had a wind turbine on it. We ended up shifting that over like the following year or two. We were happy to just cover it all in Typar and gravel. We didn't want any visual reminders, because it was really depressing for that month or so, just waiting for things to be cleaned up. And I mean, we did plenty of cleaning on our own, but if you've ever been in a house fire situation, you'll never forget the smell. Like, it's like the most unique smell, and it becomes a traumatizing smell if you've ever been around it. Like, especially the way it smells if it's gotten all wet afterwards. It's like, if you know that smell, and you'll never forget that smell. And I haven't forgotten that smell. Well, when it was all said and done, we were out at least like $15,000 between like the lost cabin, lost materials, expenses for the demolition. And we knew we wouldn't be able to afford everything that we needed right away. So then it became like step by step, focusing on what's the next step or two steps. That was probably a good thing in the long run. It's less overwhelming to do a job when you're only focusing on that next step or two. And it was around this time that my oldest brother told me this saying. He said, how do you eat an elephant? I don't know. How do you eat an elephant? He says, one bite at a time. And so that's kind of how we've been doing things. Even with that in mind, like, there are times when I've gotten like just super overwhelmed with like thinking we're never gonna get this done. How do you like the new house? Really? So this window is a bit dirty, but while I was trying to figure out building plans, there was a guy down in Homer who was doing a renovation. I got a bunch of stuff from him for a really good deal. Like, I got this window and that door. And also there's the entryway door out there. I don't know if you can see that. And then all of these smaller windows, these white ones that fit between studs, I ordered those from Amazon. This was a window I got from a neighbor who had just put in some new windows. It's pretty good. The only problem with this one is that it's single pane. And then over here, this was a place where the people had also just put in new windows, and they were getting rid of these old wood frame windows, and they were giving them away for free. So this window here was free. And if we go over to the radio room, this wood frame window here was also free, also part of that same set. And the upstairs windows that are the windows that go out onto the balconies were also part of that same set. So that was a pretty good score. At that point, it was already August, and we just wanted to get it weathered in by winter. So that's what we focused on. So what you see here is a 20-foot tall 4x6 post. Actually goes all the way to the very top of the building. And there's also one on that end of the house and one on the opposite end of the house. And that was an important part of the plan because I wanted something to prevent hinging. I wanted there to be some integrity from the bottom all the way to the top. But it was a difficult thing to do with just a couple of us. And so I basically had to build sleeves for them, and then we propped them up into the sleeve and screwed them in place. Now, if you look like here, you can see that there used to be a board across the back of this, and that was part of the sleeve. Like, when it hit the board that was here, when we propped it up into place, that's when we knew it was vertical. So we also have these lofts on either end. And so these floor joists for the loft are connected to the floor joists going across the other side. And that gives the building a little bit extra strength going this direction to have kind of this somewhat continuous span, giving it some lateral strength. It was getting to be late October, it was getting cold, and we were still getting the roof sheathed. The sidewalls weren't really finished either, but we had to prioritize getting the roof on, but the days were getting short, things were getting frosty, making it dangerous to work up on the roof. By probably about the end of October, we got the roof sheathed, and we got an ice and water shield along the bottom of the south side, but that was it. And I always made sure to rope up when I was on the roof at this point because I didn't want to take any chances. But there was a day, I think it was in early November, we just got super, super lucky. It was going to be a sunny day. There was hopefully not going to be any frost on the roof. We were basically waiting for a frost-free day. And in that one day, I got all of the roofing felt done, got all of the drip edge around the edges done, and we figured out a way to get our long roofing panels of metal up there without getting them mangled or buckled in the process. Part of my planning process for the build was calculating exactly how long I would need the roofing sheets to be so that we didn't have to cut it, so that I could have them delivered as the perfect length. And as I started putting them on, I realized I did the math right. How'd I do the math right? Pythagorean theorem. It is your friend. How are you birds liking the new place? New bugs to eat. Anyway, so the way we got it up, we had pre-drilled holes on the end of the sheet of metal, and so we screwed a piece of wood to it and put a strap through that piece of wood so that I could basically drag it up onto the south side of the roof, put it, like, kind of get it up onto the ledge of the north side, swing it around, and I was holding onto the strap or rope as the roofing swung around on the north side. And had that strap or rope broken, the roofing would have just flown off the north side. Fortunately, we made sure nobody was going to be standing on that side in case that did happen. Because it had been a long day already, I was only able to get 7 sheets of roofing up there before we had to quit for the day. And after that day, there were no more days that fall that were suitable for getting roofing stuff done. So we just had to leave it as roofing felt for the rest of the winter, except for those 7 sheets that I got up. And so then we shifted focus to putting in the rest of the sidewalls. Meg and I would put these like super tall extension ladders side by side. And so she'd grab one side of a piece of plywood, I'd have the other side, along with some nails and a hammer, and we'd kind of, we'd shimmy up the ladders side by side, each of us holding half of the, thick, pretty heavy piece of plywood. And then I'd, start hammering it in. It was pretty treacherous, but we always got it done. We had to even borrow some ladders because some of the house is like 25 feet above ground level, some of that upper part of the sidewalls there. Once the sidewalls were sheathed, we kind of shifted focus to doing interior work. We don't have any real photos or video of that, but we basically just did the usual insulation, vapor barrier sheathing, kind of boring stuff.
Oh, it's cute. Rufus, come here. Rufus, come. Rufus, come here.
Our interior sheathing is just regular CDX plywood. See, in this room we painted it a custom color that we decided we liked. Over here was just some stain that we didn't really know how it was going to turn out, but it's really dark and it just screams, please, step into my study. So we saw this wood cook stove on Marketplace and we picked that up. It's supposed to heat up to 1,500 square feet, and I like the idea of having a dual purpose thing here. We've got the stovepipe going all the way up to the top. Since it's such a heavy amount of stovepipe, I put these brackets in and kind of attach these little, I call them wings, to the stovepipe just to help lighten the load so it's not all just sitting there on the back of the wood stove. In 2023, we focused on getting the exterior finished. First thing was to get the rest of the roofing metal on there, but I personally didn't want to do any more of that. That previous autumn, I did have a fall when on the roof. It was some frosty tar paper. I slipped and fell, and I was close to the edge, so I grabbed for the edge of the roof, but the drip edge flashing was on there. I ended up cutting my finger pretty badly. I don't know. There might still be a scar there. I don't know if you could see that. Probably not. I was roped up, but I mean, that didn't really matter because I kind of was able to arrest my fall regardless. But I was pretty happy to hire out the rest of the roofing metal. So, we covered the walls in tar paper, and then we put, siding on there. I'm putting, air quotes for siding because it's just ACX plywood. A lot cheaper than any available siding we could find. And then we stained it and spent the late summer and fall building a deck, building a greenhouse, building an entryway. So here's a picture. You can see that I put a post and beam structure to support the deck, and then I actually cantilevered the beams out beneath the existing house so that beam helps support the first 3 floor joists. Since it's like a 16-foot span, I was thinking how can I reduce the flex on the middle of those floor joists and give some extra support. So I also built stairs in the house and a room beneath the stairs that would become the bathroom. In 2024, we finished the rest of the interior work. We focused on getting the ceiling insulated, vapor barrier, sheathed. We got the interior walls painted or stained, depending on which walls. We added flooring in some places, started building furniture, did some plumbing. The plumbing is just to drain gray water because it's not, we don't have a septic. But it's nice to not have to haul your gray water out. You got a brand new house. What do you think of your new place? This living room flooring are locally milled 1x6 spruce boards that sat and got kind of manky. But then Megan went and sanded them all down and put some coats of polyurethane on them and turned them into flooring. And that flooring kind of matches the tongue and groove boards we have. I don't know if we'd call this a cathedral ceiling or whatever. It was a bit of a pain to install, and I had to actually, from this second floor joist across to there, I had to run some long 2x6s and put in some temporary scaffolding so that I could put in all of these tongue and groove boards on the ceiling. We installed solar panels. You can see some videos of that already. We added a back porch roof. We added the rest of the upstairs windows, added some balconies, as well as there's a little room beneath the house that we're going to use for probably an IBC tote for water storage. We can just pump it into the house from there. We can fill that water. We've got a well right over there. It's also just kind of a junk storage place at the moment. But we can use that well to fill a water container there and then pump it into the house through there and just fill that intermittently. If you see the stovepipe location, I was thinking, if this is a bedroom on this corner of the house on the second floor, and there's ever a fire that emanates from the wood stove area, whoever is in this bedroom might not be able to get out of the house by going that direction. They might have to pass through fire, which is not something that a person generally wants to do. So not only did I want to make this a balcony, I wanted it to be a fire escape. And so I kind of built it up off of these beams down at the base on some of these helical pier saddles. So I started with this platform here, and then I built another one up there. So you can see there's a hatch that opens up, and then a ladder down the inside. I put these vertical pieces here to make you feel protected while you're climbing down the ladder, because if you feel like you're going to fall, you might not want to come down that way. And then you get down here and you flip around and climb down around the outside. So this kind of became a fire escape. But then that created a new problem, in that these are gathering snow and or rain. And so this floor joist here along the side of the house starting to gather moisture when snow piles on there. And I don't want that floor joist to start rotting. So we need to put some kind of little awning or roof above the fire escape, and the same thing for the balcony on the other side. And I think that's a good idea anyway, because that means we won't have to shovel snow off of it as often. And that also means if we want to step out and look for moose to hunt or something, and it happens to be a rainy day, we can be covered up and perfectly dry while sitting on our little home hunting stand. What about the swing set? Is that your favorite part?
Probably.
It is 2025 now, and we're still adding finishing touches. I made some lofts in the upstairs. It's taken years, especially if you include planning, but even the build itself was 2.5 years at least. For some people, that might seem more like a nightmare than a dream house. I'm calling it a dream cabin because we did have the time and the luxury to design and build with the knowledge we've accumulated living in the area. It's not like you don't look at it and think, oh, what a beautiful cabin. It's not that kind of a place, but it's very efficient. But more importantly, we were able to make it happen without going into debt. But that's part of the reason that it took as long as it did, because we had some, financial setbacks along the way. That's pretty much the whole build. So we'll probably make more videos, in the future as we add more and more things. Maybe anything that might seem like a cool feature or something that you might want to try to duplicate or in your situation, or ideas that you might want to build on. What excites you most about living in the new house?
Excuse me, I can't.
I don't know what that means. And so we didn't really film much of the building process because we had no plans on making a off-grid cabin build video, but there is still some building left to be done. And in fact, I think putting the little awning roofs above our balconies is going to be get my fingers out here at air quotes, last thing we need to build. Of course, that's not true. We'll never actually be done building, as is often the case with these kinds of projects, but I did want to get a little bit of action in the video, so let's get to it. I find that I'm having to scrape ice off of this, off of these decking boards here. Perfect.